Streaming now, this is the WJTV Live Desk.
And good morning, everyone. Phil Pinarski here with the WJTV Live Desk. Thank you for joining us today on your Tuesday. On Friday, parts of Mississippi and the surrounding states were hit hard by a string of tornadoes that resulted in more than 20 people losing their lives. Recovery efforts are now being implemented, but there is still a lot of work to do. And joining us today on the Live Desk, as always, as he does every Tuesday, is Storm Team Meteorologist Blake Harms and another very special guest, Jake Dalton. He is the morning meteorologist over at our sister station, WJTV in Jackson, Mississippi, and he has actually had firsthand experience with this damage. Jake, Blake, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us, Phil.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Jake, just kind of starting off, it's been a few days since that outbreak of tornadoes down in the area in your neck of the woods. Can you kind of explain what it's like now that we have had time to experience everything and see the aftermath of all that damage, and really just what's it been like being a meteorologist down there and really seeing it firsthand?
Yeah, I mean it's been a tough experience. Right now, of course, we're in the recovery phase, and all of us, not just our station, but all of the surrounding stations, all working together to get relief to the area. So we do cover all those counties that were impacted by the tornado, and it's been, it's been, for me, a life-changing experience for sure, because it's one thing, tracking these things on radar, and then, knowing the damage behind the scenes, what's happening, and then going out and actually covering it, the aftermath. It's been eye-opening, because we actually did spend the day there, majority of our weather team in Rolling Fork yesterday.
So, Jake, you went to see the destruction firsthand with the team, as you mentioned, in Rolling Fork. But I think, like you mentioned, unless you're there witnessing it, it's impossible to kind of understand the breadth of what all has occurred. Can you kind of walk us through what your experience was like, some of the things you noticed when you were there in Rolling Fork?
Yeah, it truly, the statement of pictures don't do it justice. It is absolutely correct, because, you look at the images online and you see the damage, and, you're looking at it, you're like, wow, it's terrible. It's, these homes and businesses are wiped out, but until you're there on the ground, it really, that's when it really puts things into perspective. As we came into town, it just steadily got worse and worse. We came up on the south side of town, and we just started noticing trees down, and then all of a sudden it went from just damage to just destruction. And it was emotional. I'll be honest, I had to hold it together for a little bit, because you're looking at the damage, and we also got to talk to residents that went through it, and got to hear their stories of survival. And we had talked to a woman whose neighbor died behind her house, and she lived, but her neighbor has passed away from the tornado. So it was tough. It really was. Definitely the worst thing I've ever seen damage wise. I grew up in South Louisiana, and I remember going down to the Mississippi coast after Katrina. That was in 2005. I was about 9, almost 10 years old. And I remember the damage there, and it was up there with Katrina, just homes wiped out, businesses gone. And what's really different about this tornado, we're in Mississippi, we get hit by severe weather a lot, we get tornadoes a lot. Of course, this was a strong one. It was a violent tornado. It was an EF4. But this one went right through the heart of Rolling Fork. We think at least 70 to 75% of the town is basically destroyed. So that's what really made this one so different. And it was emotional. It really was.
And Jake, kind of going off that, you mentioned that you grew up in the South. I personally am coming from Birmingham, Alabama. We've seen our fair share of tornadoes as well. You said that this one just felt a little different because of how damaging it was. I guess just kind of speak a little bit more to that, if you wouldn't mind. For people that maybe haven't been through something like this, you mentioned Katrina earlier as well, just something as devastating as this. Just kind of talk about, personally, you said it affected you a lot as well. Just seeing that firsthand, seeing people, talking to people and everything, just what that meant.
It's it was emotional, and and we all feel it here on our weather team and at the news station too. We've all been really even if we didn't know people personally impacted by this, these are towns that we cover. We talk about Rolling Fork all the time. We talk about Silver City, and went on to even northern Mississippi. But like, I mean, these are our communities that we cover every day. So just knowing that it is really hurt our community it hurts us too. Um, and just being down there and just seeing the residents. I mean, we watched one man he was just kind of sitting there. Um, on what was left of his home. There was really nothing left. It was just a pile of debris, and he was shocked. I mean, he was still in a state of shock, and that's what a lot of the residents said, is that they are in shock and they haven't grasped still what happened. And we talked to one man too who just barely made it down to the basement before it hit, and he is a lucky one who actually has a basement, because that's what um, is an issue here in Mississippi, is because a lot of our homes and businesses here don't have basements. And of course, we don't know exactly yet what went wrong, perhaps you could say, in this situation, but these were brick homes that were hit. Of course, it did hit trailer park. I believe it did hit a trailer park too, but even brick homes, like I said, were basically slab. They were down to rubble. But a lot of these homes didn't have basements, and so that, I believe, is what led to the fatalities. Is just because the tornado itself was too strong. You really needed to be underground for this one. And as we were covering it, we were looking at it on radar. We knew how bad, at least something bad was happening. We didn't quite know the extent, but that always goes through my head during tornadoes here and tornado coverage is, man, like these, we don't have basements, and unless you're at a tornado shelter or a safe room, you have to get to the interior hallway, closet, bathroom, like we always tell people. And these EF4s, EF5 type tornadoes are rare, but they do happen. And it's just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, Jake, you brought up a good point, because we were going to ask, I think what a lot of folks here in Michigan kind of take for granted is that we have the ability to have basements. And so that's, I think, an important distinction. And like you mentioned, why I think it was so devastating with just not having anywhere to go other than a bathroom or an interior hallway.
Exactly. And we have, in our part of the state, we do have tornado safe rooms, but they're not as widespread and as accessible as, say, even in northern Mississippi. We one of our PhD students, Craig Cece at Mississippi State, he did a really great job of putting together a map. I think it's the entire U.S. of where there's tornado shelters. And when you zoom in on the map to our part of the state, which we cover central Mississippi, South Mississippi, and Western Mississippi, and they're pretty sparse. They're kind of spread out all over the place. They're a lot more accessible in the northern half of the state near Tupelo, Mississippi. So we're getting closer to like the Memphis area. And so, and I'm not sure of the exact reason why that is. I'm going to assume it was after the 2011 super outbreak. Perhaps they added more shelters up there in that part of the state, but we just don't have a lot of access to tornado safe rooms. And so in the situation like Rolling Fork, the nearest one is in Myersville, which is about 20 minutes to the west of Rolling Fork. So even if, residents there got the warning and, we're like, all right, we got to get to the safe room, there was really no way for them to get there. I mean, they would have been driving into it, and there just wasn't enough time for them to get out and to that safe room. So, it's very lucky here if you do have a basement or a storm cellar.
It's tough stuff. So you mentioned the super outbreak of 2011. Obviously, Mississippi has a long track record of damaging tornadoes. This one being the latest. But in your perspective, what is it like? You've worked in Louisiana, worked in Mississippi. You've covered both hurricanes and now tornadoes. What is it like as a broadcast meteorologist when you have a tornado situation like that unfolding?
This one, we kind of knew days in advance that the setup was there for this to be a bad, severe weather day. We've had several of these moderate risks, these higher end risks already just really since November. It was like, from what I remember, our first one, it's happened like countless times, it feels like, since then. It's been very active from winter, really from fall through winter, now through spring, which is our peak of severe weather season for us. So for this one, we kind of knew days in advance. The setup itself looked like something that has in the past, looking at analogs, that would bring us, a pretty heightened risk of severe weather. And it's always stressful the days leading up to leading up to the event. For me, like I lose sleep days ahead of these. You're constantly plugged into models and looking at the latest data. All right, like how are things shaping up, and especially when you get to like that day or two out when all the high resolution models come in and where you can really start to dive into the specifics on it. Um, but actually being on air and covering a tornado on the ground where with the radar technology we have now, we're literally basically watching, tornadoes go through towns now. And it's a great tool that we have to give people advance warning. But I mean, there's times where you're sitting there like you almost don't even know what else to say. You almost want to just like jump to the TV screen and just, tell these people, hey, like this is the real deal, like this is the one. And we kind of heard stories about this in Rolling Fork yesterday. One man I specifically talked to, he wasn't really plugged into the weather for whichever reason, and his sister, who lives right here in the Jackson Metro, actually gave him a call and told him he needed to get to his basement or to his safe place. And he was like, all right, but he took the next step to say, all right, well, I want to go step outside to make sure this is the real thing. And when he stepped outside, that's when he could actually hear the buildings across the street from him being damaged and being torn apart. And so that's when they ran down to the basement. But you hear a lot of that too, which is, an issue. It's the false sense of, that this isn't actually going to happen to me. And then it does.
So, Phil, I think you have something about kind of the recovery efforts.
Yeah, no,
forward.
I guess just kind of wrapping things up, Jake. Obviously, we were showing it on screen, just some of the damage that was taken, days after the tornadoes broke out. You can't imagine what it was like immediately after it. Recovery efforts, of course, are underway right now. There's still a lot to be done, but there is a way for everyone to kind of pitch in and help, not just in the Mississippi area, but even right here in central Michigan. There is even a way for people to help out over on WJTV's website.
Yeah, all the links on there will take you to places to donate, and it'll drive you right into the right direction on where to go to help out. And they need all the help they can get right now.
Are there any particular items or supplies or really just kind of funds that they need? Is that sort of just what they're looking for right now?
Yeah, when we were there yesterday, they were pretty good on water and food. So that part of things was really taken care of. From what it sounded like, I mean, we need lots of, items like paper towels and um, baby wipes, baby formula, things like that household family members may need, things of that sort, if that makes sense. And there was a man yesterday that was helping pass out things like sunscreen, because for all the people that are coming into town to help with the relief efforts, people getting out in the sun all day, they're getting sunburnt from being out in the sun all day. So that's something else that looks to have a need as well.
Right, absolutely. And of course, we're also going to have links to the Red Cross and other ways that people can help out, even right here in Michigan, over on our website as well, woodtv.com. Jake, we really do appreciate you coming on the live desk today and really giving us that firsthand experience and really knowledge of what has transpired across Mississippi over the past couple of days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, for Blake Harms, I'm Phil Pinarski, and we thank everybody for tuning into this latest edition of the Wood TV Live Desk, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.